You're listening to the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast, where I'll be giving valuable insight and thought-provoking perspectives about the connections between our hair and how we live our daily lives. I know that many of you have heard people talking about jerry curls and pressing curls, high top fades and sporting waves, the best products for your hair, and so much more. But what you haven't heard is how our hair can be a full reflection of what's going on in our hearts, what's going on in our minds, what's going on in our bodies, and what's going on in our souls. I'm your host, Darius Peace, and I'm excited to be your weekly guide on the journey to having better hair and a better life. I hate when I have to sneeze and I got to hold it in. It's like, oh my gosh, we started out the podcast and Eric was like, all right, you ready? And I was like, yeah. And then as soon as I got ready, I had to sneeze. So I'm going to hold this sneeze in. I think I'm good now. Sometimes I can talk myself into not sneezing. Anyway, so I believe that in many cases, your hair or our hair can be a telltale sign of where we are in our lives, especially where we're going in our lives. Some people wear what I call entry-level hairstyles and don't even realize that that's what they're wearing, while others are very progressive in the way they wear their hair. So as I begin to explain the differences between what I call entry-level hair and progressive hairstyles, as well as what these styles look like and where they showcase themselves, some may become offended and defensive. Now, that's okay. Offense and defense regarding this topic of the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast is likely, but it's likely to also help you grow so that you don't get stuck there. And being stuck is also known as being stunted. And sometimes stunted hair growth, in my opinion, is indicative of one likely having a personality type that holds on to drama and trauma and negative places, negative things, that all that kind of stuff. And so we don't want to get stunted. We don't want to get stunted in a non-progressive place in any part of our lives, whether it's showcasing our hair or whether it's showcasing our personal lives. That was a good parallel there, huh? I know. So, although this may be challenging to acknowledge or even recognize, we want to always have clear and heightened awareness of our overall growth, be it our hair growth or be it our life growth. So, another thing that I wanted to mention, I was thinking about this on the way here while I was driving in the car. Whenever I'm out and about, I often take notice of hairstyles around me. And it's quite interesting how these hairstyles can also reveal not only where we are in our lives, but what we do. So I'll use myself as an example. My chosen hairstyle is, for those who may not have seen me, I wear long locks. And I haven't always worn them long. This is my third set of locks. And I choose to wear long locks with tapered sides and really sharp precision on my hairline or my lineup. And this is a style that I perceive as progressive for my professional industry. Now, I don't know whether my hairstyle or my overall look would play well in the corporate sector, because it may be too edgy for corporate, but at least starting out, I think it would probably be too edgy. But for me operating as a hair care expert, a hair care authority, a hair care professional, I think that it works for what it is that I do for this particular endeavor. And as a hair care expert, or as your natural hair expert, my hairstyle usually draws in a lot of positive attention that in many cases will validate my position as well as my credibility as an authority in the industry. And I'm very intentional about this. I choose to stay away from vivid colors, because some people will think, oh, well, you're a hairstylist, you can do anything with your hair, but I really cannot do anything with my hair. I choose to stay away from a lot of heavy, vivid colors because they can possibly turn away my target audience of customers. So when I say vivid colors, I'm talking about your yellows and your blues and your greens and your colors that aren't really naturally occurring for human hair. So I stay away from those. But let's put a pin in this conversation and continue right after a word from our sponsors.
Speakers, coaches, experts, and entrepreneurs. Whether you're keynoting events, growing your business, or commanding the boardroom, you are highly skilled and accomplished at what you do. But something's missing. You don't have a cohesive brand to match your level of success. But not to worry, that's where we come in. We're Honeysuckle Lane Creative Co., and we create stunning visuals that capture the essence of your business and give you the online presence of your dreams. With a full suite of creative services, including photography, web design, graphic design, and marketing strategy, we make sure you're as extraordinary online as you are in your area of expertise. Ditch the DIY and work with an experienced team that gets results. Find us online at honeysucklelanecreative.com and on Instagram at honeysuckle_creative. Let's bring your brilliance to life with an unforgettable brand.
Had to get that sneeze together again, y'all. I had a whole moment while the sponsors were doing their thing and delivering their message to get this sneeze out, and I still did not get it out. I got to work on my time management with my sneezing. Anyway, so as I was saying before, we took that moment to let our sponsors let you know what they have to offer. I am very intentional about making sure that my chosen hairstyle attracts and not repels my target audience of customers. I'm clear about who my audience is, and I've been pretty clear about who that is for a long time. At Haya Beauty and really most of the things that I do, my target audience has been women, and now women and men over the age of 40, those who choose to wear natural Afro-textured hair, those who choose to work in the professional sector, usually high-level positions. And because this is my target audience, that doesn't mean that that's all who I service. That just means that this is who I'm targeting, and everybody else who comes with, and everybody that comes will come along with that specific target. But anyway, so because I'm clear about who my customer is, I know from all of my years of experience in this industry that wearing vivid, unnatural hair colors, like I said before, pinks and blues and purples and oranges and greens, are less likely to appeal to as well as draw in my target audience, my customer. And this is because that customer is less likely to request any of those shades for themselves. Why? Because they know that they're less likely to move forward in the workplace with hair colors that can possibly distract with or from productivity, as well as conflict with the overall image and aesthetic of the company brand. So I'll use an example. Let me ask Eric. So Eric, does Creed 633 have a specific color or a specific color? Do y'all have colors?
Yeah. So if you look at our social media, and when we send out emails with our masthead and so forth, you will see that orange, blue, yellow. I mean, it's very subtle.
Yeah.
Because the C in Creed is actually kind of mapped out to be the shape of our address, like the inside of the building.
Oh, I
so
love
if
that.
you look, there's hints of blue, orange, and yellow off the top of my head. So those are the closest things we have to brand colors.
And so, so in saying that because those are the company's colors, a person working with Creed is less likely to be able to move forward wearing orange hair or blue hair or red hair, because that can distract from, it can really be a distraction from the overall brand and really mission of the company.
In a sense, we're very liberal to
Yeah.
use. I don't know another term to use. Very liberal in dress code and appearance policy, as long as you're neat, clean, and presentable.
Yeah.
And your hygiene is intact, because that's a thing. We don't too much lean into what a person does with their hair. But I understand what you're saying.
But that's good that you say that, because it also shows that there are certain jobs and certain professions that are the key word that you said, liberal. Mm-hmm. So there is a little more freedom with your overall aesthetic.
Yep.
There's not, because it may not be as public as working at a bank.
Yep.
If you're working for, I'll say, Regions Bank, you're less likely to advance in the workplace wearing lime green hair.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Regions green hair,
I will say, specific to this topic, though, when I was with a clothing company, because I don't feel the need to give them free air.
Yeah, don't give them free air.
It was mandated that the only colors we could wear were white, gray, and navy blue. And ever since then, so this is over 10 years ago. It's about 15 years ago at this point since I've left that company. I still shy away from wearing, not necessarily white, because white is just a staple color for all of us, or most of us. But I notice in the back of my mind, like when I'm thinking about my clothes and looking at my wardrobe, I tend to shy away from wearing navy or gray because I was forced to wear it five
Right,
days a week.
right.
So
And but in that environment, because you were forced to wear those colors, I don't think that because you're forced to, that means that that environment is not as liberal. So you're less likely to be able to wear navy blue hair to work and think that you're going to progress in the company.
yeah, and specific to that company, I can quote the handbook at this point because of how strict they were, but you had to have what they refer to as a natural look. So no hair color, right? They were also very big about not, and the more I talk, people are probably going to be able to guess. They were big on women or men really, but obviously they targeted it to women because this was 2009, 2010. Not having heavy makeup on, the makeup had to look natural,
Just really natural.
you couldn't have colored nail polish, so the nails and the hands on your hands and feet, toenails and fingernails had to be a nude color
Yeah.
or a clear coat. I mean, it was so very specific with what you could and couldn't do because of the way they wanted to present to the public.
And that, is because that's who they want to target. They want to target those people who are looking for a more minimalist appearance as it pertains to the color scheme, the makeup, the accessories, and so forth. So that kind of brings me to the Crown Act. So the Crown Act, for those of you who don't know, was created in 2019 by what's called the Crown Coalition in partnership with Dove products, Dove body products. And so it was also done with State Senator Holly J. Mitchell of California. And this was created to ensure protection against the discrimination in the workplace based on race-based hairstyles by extending a statutory protection to, and I'm reading this right here just so I get this right. Let me read it correctly. The Crown Act was created in 2019 by the Crown Coalition in partnership with the State Senator Holly J. Mitchell of California and the Dove Corporation to ensure protection against the discrimination on race-based hairstyles by extending statutory protection to hair texture and protective styles such as braids, locks, twists, knots, and other styles in the workplace as well as in public schools. So that was a really cool thing, especially for me being in the natural hair industry. And I would say that I'm passively a part of this movement because I've been helping women and men to go into the workplace with beautiful, polished, sophisticated, natural hairstyles that would represent any company, any brand in the best way. And so what Eric and I are talking about right now is that right there, people, because I'm specifically talking about bold colors, but as it pertains to texture, especially when you're talking about your natural texture or a naturally occurring human texture, that's what the Crown Act is all about, making sure that people have some protection against any discrimination that they may experience in the workplace or in the schools regarding that. Now, the Crown Act is not a part of legislation all over the United States as of yet, but there are states, many states now, that have incorporated the Crown Act into their legislation, and I think that that's fantastic. But I'm just excited to be living in a time when hair discrimination, especially as it pertains to race-based hairstyles such as braids, locks, twists, curls, afros, as well as those other styles that are not or that are not as well as native to Black people. I'm glad that that is now prohibited in many workplaces. I mean, because that's horrible to not be able to wear your natural texture and be forced into chemical compromises or extension compromises, which we all know can be damaging to the hair when done incorrectly or inappropriately. That, it can just create a lot of hazard to the overall hair as well as the overall health. But I'm glad that that now is not a problem for a lot of people moving forward as we go on in life. But however, it is important that we opt for hairstyles, in my opinion, that are going to keep us moving forward in every area of our lives. And this refers to advancement in the workplace, advancement in the social sector, advancement in our overall health and wellness, as well as advancement in our romantic lives. This is kind of a side note, but I think that it's pretty obvious that there are many of us who have a very little awareness of the role that our hairstyles can play in any of those aforementioned areas: social, professional, romantic, health wise. I don't think that we really think about that. And every time I go to the doctor for a checkup, I always see nurses with very eccentric and what I consider to be distracting hairstyles. Now, this is not a jab at nurses or jab at all nurses, but I do, like when I go to the hospitals for or the doctor for a checkup, there's typically some nurse with this really elaborate style that is just, I just think, inconsistent with the overall brand or aesthetic of the hospital. And when I say distracting, I'm talking about big, bold hair color in the shades that I mentioned before, like a green, a red, a blue, or orange, just Crayola in nature or Crayola-esque. So one observation about those that I recognize who do wear these styles in the workplace is that they're typically working in lower level positions in the office. Just an observation, not a jab. Just so if anybody's taking this personally, they'll understand where I'm coming from, because this is not to demean or condemn anybody, but it's really to heighten our awareness so that we can recognize, I may not be moving forward in the way that I want to because my hair may not be a reflection of what the company's overall progressive goals are, or maybe I'm not really showcasing the look that would embody authority in the meeting room or conference room or so forth. And I know that, many choose these different styles for self-expression, creative outlets, trend setting, and various other reasons. And even though there's nothing wrong with any of those reasons, especially from a social standpoint, they can still create major barriers for opportunities in the professional world. So we have to be aware of that. Like whenever we choose our hairstyles, I think that we should all be mindful of what our professional end goals may be, as well as assess whether our hairstyle is going to align with where we want to be and beyond.
I want to jump in real quick.
Yeah, jump in.
I don't want to interrupt your flow because you're cooking over there. But I saw a discussion on Facebook literally just yesterday. And it's interesting because you and I had not discussed what we're going to record today. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about the gap they see between millennials and, Gen Z and the next generation as far as expectations. And as you were talking, it made me think of that discussion because they were talking about appearance at work and expectations. And as you're talking, I want to point out two things to our audience. We're really, I think from 2016 to 2020, and do with this what you will, because I'm not going to give you the specifics. We're intelligent enough to derive the specifics for ourselves. I think a lot of us here in America felt like we were going backwards, right? But I think looking at younger generations, that liberalism will continue to just push conservatives and overly far conservatism backwards, right down to how we're able to present ourselves professionally. And just what you, as you were talking, like that stuck in my head. And I'm like, I think we're really just moving to a place where self-expression can really truly exist. Just wanted to share that.
Yeah, well, I think, again, like I was saying before, because that's one of the things that we just have to make sure that we heighten our awareness of it, and we are very mindful and intentional about how we choose to wear our hair in all of these different sectors: work, romantic, social, health, wellness, whatever it is. Like I think about, and we're not saying that wearing bold hair colors is prohibited for certain professions. We're not saying that at all. Like, Eric made it very clear that here at Creed 63, it's not prohibited that anybody wears a certain hair color or not wear a certain hair color. But as far as advancement is concerned, you're less likely to move forward without certain things in place to help catapult you beyond the image of your hair color in this particular situation. So unless you're applying for the role of what I say, the company mascot, then wearing the company's colors of blue and yellow and purple is less likely to place you under the radar for any platform or any form of promotion. So one of the few ways that individuals may get a pass in this type of scenario is when their overall work performance is outstanding and stellar. So I'm going to repeat that. When your work is so outstanding and so stellar, that means that's showcasing that you're so valuable to the company. Our numbers have gone up as a result of you being here, or our views have gone up as a result of your performance. Your performance has to outshine whatever your aesthetic is. Your performance has to outshine whatever your hair color is or whatever your hairstyle is, because at the end of the day, you're not at work for a hairstyle unless you're modeling or acting or something. You're at work for a certain performance. And that performance is to increase the overall numbers of that company, whatever it may be. That's always the goal. And so those are the things that we want to be clear about if we are wearing these colors. And again, starting out, until you really showcase that high level of value, in your performance with that company or that brand, you're less likely to move forward starting off with that type of color or color showcase or style showcase. But anyway, that's and there are examples. When I think about Essence Magazine, the current CEO of Essence Magazine wears very elaborate and colorful hairstyles, very eccentric, and I think they're absolutely beautiful. So I'm not anti any of these things, but I'm just saying if you're in certain work environments in the professional sector, especially those that are more conservative, you're less likely to advance in the workplace with that look. But Essence Magazine, of course, it's a publication, it's a media outlet. So those type of professions are usually more liberal. When you think about your PR firms and your marketing firms and working behind the scenes as a disc jockey or something like that, that right there will offer a little more freedom to be able to explore creativity and aesthetic showcase with hair color and all that stuff. But again, if you're working at the bank, if you're working at the hospital, if you're working at any other place, it may not be as acceptable. So we just want to be mindful of that and choose our battles wisely. Now don't get it twisted. Actually, you can get it twisted. I like for people to get their hair twisted, but you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that showcasing some edge and uniqueness is a bad thing. I love to see it, especially in the workplace. But that's if and only if the value is exemplified in the overall work performance of the individual. If and only if. So I want to talk about, especially because I'm going so hard and so passionately about it, I want to talk about workplace hair. Of course, I think that if you're going to wear certain hair in the workplace, I think that it should be a polished showcase of your natural hair texture. And color's always a go in the workplace as long as that color is naturally occurring. So that goes for your browns and your blacks and your blondes and your silvers, your grays, even some plum and copper shades can go really well in the workplace. But once you start going with those vivids like your hot pinks and your blues and your yellows, those can be eye-catching in a way that may not necessarily position you for advancement. So I would think hard on those, because even though we do have acts like the Crown Act to help prohibit the discrimination against race-based hairstyles, but when you're talking about colors, like that gives them a different fight. Against you. If you're talking about, I want the freedom to be able to wear my lime green hair to work. Well, if that doesn't work for that brand, they don't have to come at you with that. If in any way, shape, or form your performance is low, they'll find or create a reason to let you go, especially when you open that door. So I always think that it's best to choose your battles wisely when it comes to, especially when it comes to hair in the workplace. Social hair. So let me give some examples of workplace hair before I go into social hair. So like examples would be, it doesn't matter to me what your hair texture is, whether you choose to wear your hair locked or twisted or braided or curled or straight, however you choose to wear your hair. A good style and cut on whatever that given or chosen texture is going to always play well. So I'm real big, for women. Good classic bobs, nice classic layers, falling hair, pulled back buns or chignons. All of those are really good. Even short pixie cuts, curls. all of those hairstyles are really good in the workplace as long as you're able to see your face and you're able to showcase authority with that look. And I always say, look at examples online of what authority looks like in your industry, and you can create a variation of that authoritative look for yourself. So that doesn't mean that you have to necessarily become a twin or a mimic of somebody else's hair, especially if that may not work on you. But if you can, really create a solution of variation for that style as an inspiration on yourself, that's one that can help you move forward because you're showcasing a look that represents that company or that brand in the way that's going to attract more money and more progression, more productivity. So, and then for men, same thing. Of course, you can wear your hair. I typically wear my hair, even though it's in locks, I wear it back in ponytails. And so if I were working in the corporate sector, I think that I could get away with some of it, especially if my line isn't as precise as I would wear it on stage. But, I think that my overall look with the locks can play well. It's just all about how I choose to wear this line. But I'm aware of that, and that's because I'm a hairstylist, your hair expert, hair authority, so I know those things. So those are just some examples of style options that can play well in the workplace. And even with men, you can't go wrong with a classic cut, with a nice line. It just depends on your texture. But again, always look at examples of what the people who inspire your upward mobility in the workplace, look at what they look like and just create a variation of that for yourself. If it's an updated variation of that, if it's a more classic showcase of that, do that. I think that that's a wise way to approach that. And if you have a mentor or a colleague in the workplace that can help guide you in the direction with that, I will consult with them too. So that's workplace hair. Social hair, that's a whole other ball game. And so I always say, when you're out in these streets, as I call it, stay away from bonnets, do-rags, scarves, especially if they're not the kind that are like there are some that we can wear that showcase heritage. And when you're talking about head wraps that are religious in nature, that showcase certain culture, but when you're talking about bonnets that you wear to sleep, that is not an indicator of a certain culture. It does not mimic, the elaborate, beautiful head wraps and head pieces that you'll see a lot of women in African nations wear, and African cultures and tribes and societies. It's not those, but we talking about bonnets. We talking about satin sleep bonnets that people are now wearing in the streets as a showcase of fashion. And the thing that's crazy about that to me, and I'm pretty vocal about this, and I'm not really concerned about the offense or the defense in this regard, because it really does shine a negative light specifically on Black people and Black culture. So the whole purpose of a bonnet is to protect your hair and your hairstyle while you go to sleep. And it's to prepare you for leaving the house, not wearing your bonnet to leave the house. When you talk about your personal reputation, your social reputation, all of that does play a big role in your professional reputation. Every time you go out in these streets, people who see you, you don't know who you're going to run into. You may be a candidate for a golden opportunity and lose that opportunity because I saw you out in these streets underdressed, misrepresenting yourself, as well as possibly misrepresenting the company that you work for. What's going on, Eric?
Man, I've been sitting over here trying not to laugh. I made a face, and I saw Darius try not to laugh at me. Here's why I made a face. I wholeheartedly agree about the way we want to present ourselves socially, because like it or not, we are still fighting in the Black community for true acceptance. And don't come at me with, we don't need acceptance. What?
Lies. We do.
Because the other side of acceptance is oppression, right? Mm-hmm. And if we want to continue to progress forward, be clear, I'm not talking about integration or assimilation. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about progress.
Yes.
So I want to be clear. The reason I made that face at you, I thought back to when I was younger, when I used to have waves and my hair was lush and full and thick, and I had a do-rag of every color to match every outfit. And I was about to be like, hold on, Darius, they can wear their do-rags out in public. But then I stopped myself and I was like, I want to rethink this before I say anything because when you kept talking, I started to agree with you, so I actually shut myself up. So that's all I got because I was about to start an argument with you, but I was like,
Well, and so just for the sake of argument, so I think about like there are situations where socially a do-rag could be acceptable. So let's say, you know what, when I go to the gym, I might want to wear my do-rag so I can keep my waves intact. Or if I'm going to play basketball or do some type of athletic activity beyond the gym, I might want to rock my do-rag. Or, I may want to look a little street for an event that I'm going to that is totally disconnected from the professional sector. That's different. And again, that goes back to choosing how you choosing your hair do and how you choose to cover your hair wisely, because again, it can affect one's reputation overall. And the reality is that even in our social lives, they're not really that far removed from our professional lives. And so we just want to make sure that what we're doing is still going to represent our professional endeavors in the best way. So I think about, the do-rags, the bonnets, the scarves, and of all of these, the do-rags, don't get me wrong, they get on my nerves. But there is nothing worse than seeing that bonnet out there, because the bonnet typically is not dressed up with a beautiful outfit. It's typically dressed with pajamas or very loungy, relaxed clothing that's best suited for in the house. And then the posture of someone who is wearing their bonnet outside of the house is usually very low, very lazy, very leisure, just a little too relaxed. And that's the relaxation that you should showcase in the house. And so I think that it just misrepresents the person as well as misrepresents our race, because now it becomes the perpetuation of a lot of negative stereotypes that Black people are always having to overcome anyway, that we're not professional, that we're not, that we don't look the part, that we lack competency in so many different areas and endeavors. And that's not true. But when you see these individuals out like that, it really does set back those who are working hard and striving for more success. And it makes many of them or us the unfortunate exception, and nobody wants to be that kind of exception. Like, oh, you're one of the professional ones. Nobody wants to be that, because nobody else has to experience that. I don't see a lot of white people being referred to, oh, you're one of the smart ones, or you're one of the competent ones, or you're one of the well-spoken ones, or you're one of the more professional ones, or you're one of the pretty ones, one of the polished ones. And I just don't want us to set ourselves back like that, because that's what happens.
and I want to be clear. I want y'all to hear this out of my mouth twice for my sake and Darius' sake, because I know how things can come across. We are not talking about assimilating.
No.
We are not talking about watering down culture.
No.
We're talking about advancement here.
We're talking about advancement. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Eric, because at the end of the day, that's what our focus has to be. So anybody who may find themselves, triggered or negatively stimulated by what we're saying, this is about advancement. We're not talking about your self-expression. We're talking about, as a race of Black people, we don't have enough, and we really can't afford not to advance. We don't own enough of anything. We don't own enough industries. We don't own enough empires. We don't own any airlines here in the United States. There's a lot of stuff. We don't own any toilet tissue companies that are really dominating the shelves in mass distribution. We don't have that. And so because we don't have those things, we got to work a little harder. So we can't get distracted by, oh, I want to express myself with orange hair, or I want to express myself with all of this. Express for what? If the expression is not leading towards the advancement of the collective, then it's kind of no effect to me. It's pointless. It's null and dull. Okay, yeah, and let's take a break. Yeah, let's take a break, y'all.
As we go to break, I just want to say I think this is a good close to this piece. We have to remember, as Black Americans, Black with a capital B, because I don't like saying African American.
Yeah,
we have to be twice as good, twice as fast, twice as strong,
Yeah.
just to get to the back of the line,
That's
to,
it.
to even get a
Oh my
place
gosh, I
in
know.
in line. So I want everyone to remember that as you digest this episode. We'll be right back after a word from a sponsor. Visit HayaBeauty.com. That's HAYAH beauty.com, or give us a call 205-703-8022 for questions, for information, or to book your appointment.
Beauty can take you higher. The mission is to inspire. I am, I was, and I always will be. Beauty higher. Beauty can take you higher. The mission is to inspire. And I always choose to start my day with higher, higher beauty.
All right, and we're back. So we talked about professional hair. We talked about social hair. Let's talk about vacation hair. So when it comes to vacation hair, I think that we should choose styles that are easy, with little to no maintenance. You know, whatever that is. I think that whatever your natural hair texture is, if you're wearing your hair, opting for something that is as close to your texture as possible, that will leave very little room for the hair converting or reverting back to the natural texture is easiest. Ponytail styles, braid styles, twist styles, even some straight styles could be good for vacation. So that's that. Those are just different hairstyles that I think will work in that arena. And then romantic hair. Now, when it comes to romantic hair, I think that you always want to opt for hairstyles that are attractive with little to no maintenance. And what I mean by that is you don't want something that's so high maintenance that you got to try to sleep cute, or you barely can move. You got to run extra hard in the rain, or, you know, be away from humidity and all that stuff. Those hairstyles are not as romantic because it takes away from you being able to focus on whoever your interest may go to or be towards. So romantic hair should be that. And I always say in these regards, consult a hairstylist who can help you to find or create a hairstyle that will frame your face in a flattering way, or line and shape your face in the way that's going to be more attractive, and something that is more naturally occurring for you, so that you don't have to worry about looking like somebody totally different when the water comes, because that's what a lot of people are afraid of. That's why water is such kryptonite to a lot of people, because back to kryptonite, it's because it's like as soon as that water hits some people, they become a different person. It's like, God damn, what happened to you?
I'm sweating out my
Oh my gosh, exactly. So just opting for something that showcases polish and sophistication in a way that is as close to your natural aesthetic as possible. Lifestyle hair. That right there, when I mean lifestyle, I'm talking about hairstyles that aid in you having better health and wellness. So if you're one that needs to exercise, or wants to exercise, or loves to exercise and work out, then you want to go for those hairstyles. As I mentioned with vacation hair is what I call lifestyle hair in my opinion. And those are styles that are going to allow you to easily take care of yourself without any fear of compromise from humidity. Whether it's internal humidity, which is sweating and perspiration is usually what I call internal humidity. And then your external humidity is what comes along with rain and just overall air humidity. So, or the lack thereof. But lifestyle hair, those styles that are less likely to be compromised with activity and weather conditions. So that's good. So that's it. So remember, like I said before, none of this conversation is intended to place anybody in a low box or a little box regarding their hairstyles, but it's to offer some insight in the areas in which we may need to be more mindful of the bigger picture, especially as it pertains to the other areas in our lives. And as well as how we choose to wear our hair. So sometimes, again, I said this so many times before, we got to choose our battles wisely, with wisdom, and ask ourselves, is this hairstyle worth the sacrifice of advancement opportunities for myself? Is this hairstyle worth me setting back a whole race or a whole nation of people because I'm perpetuating a negative stereotype or stigma that can accompany this look? And while you're thinking about that, I want you to also be mindful of the fact that your hair ain't nappy, and my hair ain't nappy either. Until next time, y'all. Thank you for listening to the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast. Reach out to us on social media. We're on TikTok and we're on Instagram at the My Hair Ain't Nappy podcast. We want to hear your stories. Until next time, love you and love your hair.